Hi, everyone. I'm David Wang. I'm a professor in the School of Accountancy at MIS at DePaul University. So today I'm going to talk about how we can teach data analytics by using AI to better enhance our students' learning experience. There are three major topics. One is about customized feedback. The second one is about an oral assignment. And the third one is about AI-mediated dialogue. So when we start to talk about how we can use AI, the first thing that came to our mind is that, hey, how we can better use AI to support our students, right? So in my class, the biggest challenge is that how I can help the students to better understand that there are so many different perspectives, how they can see the benefits, how they can discuss different perspectives with their peers. And the second thing will be how I can use AI to help them to better build this critical thinking skill sets in the techniques. And the last thing is that I always believe that if the students is able to explain things orally, we can bring the learning to the next level. So they will be able to explain things from a different perspective. They will be able to explain things by using their own words that can actually demonstrate their understanding level. So that's why I design all these exercises to help them to support them to meet all these learning objectives. So how can we do that? There are actually three different things I did in my class. The one big thing is about peer learning. So they will be able to share their thoughts, share their perspectives, and then help each other and then try to figure out that, oh, there are so many different ways that we can approach the problems. And there are so many different ways that we can interpret it. But is it better or is it worse? Or there are so many different ways that they are all correct, but how can we combine them into different contexts? And the second thing is about writing and reasoning. So I use AI as a hidden student or as a peer. So AI will actually also join the process. So it will actually provide feedbacks. It's customized to the student's submission. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And the last thing is about how we can use AI to support this kind of structured questioning and then for reflection and critical thinking. So the AI will actually provide feedback on this kind of oral assignment. So the students will be able to have a chance to look at the question, think through it, and then within this specific time frame, they will be able to record a short video to explain that this is their thoughts, this is their perspectives. And behind the scene, AI will be able to provide specific feedback. So we'll start from the first one. So how we can use peer learning to support our students. It's actually a 4-step process. The first step is that there will be some specific context. Students, based on this context and the questions, they are going to submit an academic work. So that will be their submissions. It's usually very unstructured. It's usually there's no one single solution. So that's why they will have a chance to explain that, oh, this is how I approach the problem. This is the way that I think through everything. And this is my conclusion. And we will see all kinds of different solutions and ideas through this process. So that's step one. Step two, the students will have a chance to provide anonymous feedback to other students' anonymous submissions. So they will look at it. There are specific rubrics. By following the rubrics, they will be able to provide this kind of feedback. And this is the place that we plug in all these AI students so they can see different ideas and different feedbacks. And the third step, it will be score quality of classmates' feedback. So it's more like a review, the students' review, right? So they will say, hey, whether this is helpful, whether this is constructive. So it's more like provide the students an opportunities to do more like a coaching practices. And the last step will be they need to record an oral assignment. It's related to the context, but then now they need to explain everything orally. And behind the scene, the AI will provide the feedback. So let me walk through these 4 steps in more details. So this is for the context. So in my class, this is usually the last assignment. It's pretty complicated and pretty comprehensive. So as an auditor, they will have a chance to actually incorporate all kinds of information they have been collecting, right? So they will have the information about this is the audit program in more details. They will know more information about that. Okay, there may be a control self-assessment results. There may be some specific policies, procedures. They may have been doing a lot of interviews. For example, here they got the interview results. These are the key points. These are the people they have been talking to. And then, of course, there are also some data analytics results that may be able to have, right? So, for example, for this one, they actually try to scan through the system and try to figure out that whether there are any specific keywords that may lead to some indication about the company is using the machine to store some confidential information or using to do some adjustments outside the system, right? And then, of course, they have some risk assessment based on the questionnaire they submitted. So now the students need to actually spend some time read through all the documentations they have been collecting, and these are all the pieces of information. And this is the question they are going to get. So after reading all this spreadsheet, all the related documents, so what's your conclusion towards the overall audit objectives and why, right? And then this prompt actually asks them to provide really detailed and specific explanations just to illustrate that how they use different pieces of information to reach to the conclusion, right? So the student may say that, oh, I reached this conclusion because I see something here, I see something there. I put them together. That's why this is my final assessment, right? So it's more like how they can integrate all the pieces of information, how they can think through the problems, how they can actually rely on this contextual information about the business to reach the conclusion. Okay, so based on this question, then we get into step one, the submission. So this is just how the platform looks like. So for each person, they will be able to see this one. They click on it. They can say, now I want to create the submission. And then on the left-hand side, they usually see more detailed instructions about that. Oh, these are the things that you need to do. These are the things that you need to be careful. Otherwise, people won't be able to read your submissions. On the right-hand side, they can submit a file as a supporting document, or they can just start to type. Okay, so these are all my submissions or my answers, and they can illustrate their thinking processes through this documentation. So that's step one. It's pretty straightforward. So now we get into step two. So this is the place that we want to have AI to provide some customized feedback to understand that this is the student's writing and reasoning processes. So it looks like this one. So for step two, the platform collects all the submissions. These are anonymous, and they just distribute it to their peers. Still anonymous. We don't know who will be getting all the submissions. So in this example, we'll have 4 students. So 4 peers will be able to see the submissions. In addition to these 4 peers, there will be an AI student. So we want to do a couple things with this AI student. One is that we want the AI student to provide additional perspectives. Okay, so in addition to these 4 real human students, the AI students may provide something new. The second thing, towards the end, the student who submitted the work will be able to actually see, oh, this is the feedback I submitted to help my students. And this is my peers' feedback, so from 3 other students. And this is the feedback submitted by the AI agent here. So they will be able to see that, oh, there are different perspectives, how they emphasize different things, how they approach the problems, how they provide the feedback, and what's the difference between a human and an AI in terms of providing different perspectives and feedbacks. And of course, the AI will be able to provide some custom feedback on critical thinking, right? For example, how they approach the problem, how they explain the thinking processes throughout the whole submission. So this is something that they're going to see. They need to review a couple submissions and they need to provide specific feedbacks. So in my assignment, these are the review rubrics. So the first one is they need to click on how many stars. So to what extent did the author clearly discuss his conclusions? So this is about clarity of the discussion. The second point will be whether they provide detailed and specific explanations to justify the issue. Again, just click on the number of stars. And the third rubrics will be whether the discussion is kind of logically presented. So you can see that the first one, the second one, and the third one, this is more like the communication, right? How they present it, how they give you the idea about the thinking processes. And then we get into the fourth one and the fifth one is that, hey, how do they use the information? Do you agree with them, right? So we want to show that there are so many different ways to do it. Sometimes you agree with it, sometimes you don't, but why? So this can help the students to actually think a little bit more about what's happening. And the last one is actually the most important thing. And this is often the time that we will see the differences between a human feedback and an AI feedback. So we want the students to provide information about, do you agree with how the author reaches the conclusions based on the contextual information described in the documents? So the key idea is that we are hoping that the students will be able to understand the business processes, understand the business policies, understand that, hey, there's actually a contextual information that they need to be aware of before they can reach any conclusions. And this is important because that sometimes we will see that the AI results may be so generic, right? So it may not be specific to the context. And this also is the case that when they try to provide the feedback to the students' submissions, right? So we will be able to see that, okay, whether they actually be able to link everything they are using back to the company's processes and procedures. So you can see here's an example. They need to click on the number of stars, and there are some textual feedback, specific text boxes that they need to fill in by answering the questions. And then after that, each student will get a lot of reviews to review. So they need to score the reviews. And again, it's really straightforward. They need to talk about three different things. One, for example, when they select the stars, are they consistent with the written comments, right? So I give them 5 stars, but in the written comment, I say that, no, I don't agree. This doesn't make sense. Then there are some inconsistencies. Or the review highlights specific examples. We want them to be concrete. We want them to be constructive and helpful. That's why we want to have this kind of rubrics. Do they provide specific suggestions, right? So our goal is that now you can see different perspective. We provide a feedback, but are they constructive and helpful? So they can actually go through the processes, and towards the end, they will receive all this feedback to help them improve in the future. And the last thing will be the structured questioning for reflection and critical thinking. So we do an AI feedback. This is more like a time-bound oral assignment. We want to use a time-bound oral assignment for several reasons. One is that we want them to be able to articulate their thinking processes, right? So step 1, this is what I'm trying to do. Step 2, step 3, step 4. And then how they make all the connections between their thinking process, the concepts, and the concepts we want to deliver through the class materials. And they need to explain their reasoning. So it's not just about memorizing and rewrite, No, when they need to explain things orally, they actually need to reorganize different things. So it can help them with all this reasoning and understanding. This is also about that how they can respond to unexpected questions. This is a really critical career skill set they need to have, right? It may be in an interview context. It may be you're talking to your client, but you only have a really short period of time that to think through the problems and provide some initial ideas. This is really relevant to the academic skill and professional skills, of course. So the faculty, uh, behind the scene, we can provide customized rubrics. So the AI will be actually evaluate the responses, right? So this is how they looks like. So when the students get in, they will see two separate questions. They can click on the question, and then they will see a pop-up window saying, "Are you ready to start?" The students will have 5 minutes. This 5 minutes includes read the question, think a little bit, and then start to talk about it. Okay? They will be able to see a countdown throughout the process. So it looks like this. Uh, so you can see there's a time remaining 4 minutes and 41 seconds. Once you click on it, it captures the video, it captures the audio, and then you can start to talk, and then everything will be recorded. Okay. Those are the two questions I ask in my class. One is that, so consider the feedback you receive from your classmates, right? So before they see this question, they actually will have a chance to review all the feedback they received from their classmates. Then, what was helpful, right? If yes, why is it helpful? If not, would you have preferred to learn from your classmates? Right, so they will be able to read through it, think a little bit more, and then they will get into this first question. The second question is we really need them to walk through their decision processes, right? So we need them to explain how they integrate different pieces of information to reach the conclusion. So you may recall that in the writing assignment, there's a similar question, but we now actually need them to explain everything orally, right? In a really short period of time, because they haven't seen these questions before they click on it. They need to click on it, they see the question, and they need to start to think about it and answer it. Okay, so here are the rubrics used by ChatGPT behind the scenes as set up. One is that this is not about public speech, right? It's not about perfect on grammar. So they have a really short time period of time to answer the questions. So we do not expect them to be perfect, right? The key thing is that what's the thinking process, how they explain everything. The second thing, can they explain the reason clearly? Do they provide logical support? So, for example, this is the reason why I use this information, and here are the reasons, and how they transition to their conclusion. But again, most importantly, are they able to connect their explanations back to the business context? Right? So it's not just about a couple generic points saying that I use this one, I use that one, but no, what's the key ideas that they want to use? So the AI will actually pick up all these kind of three different things really efficiently. So based on the behind the scene, the AI, the information pickup, I will be able to look at it and say that, oh, this student has learned everything that we want to convey in this classroom, right? These are the key learning objectives. Based on the answer, we can see that how the students integrate different pieces of information, how they meet the learning objectives. In some cases, we can see that it sounds so unclear that how they put everything together or how they make the conclusions. So I will be able to adjust some materials later and try to reinforce a couple specific concepts that I need to have in the classroom. And the last one is this kind of AI mediated dialogue. So we use this AI-mediated dialogue to support our learning objectives, right? We want to use AI as a mentor. So before you do anything, you can use AI to actually help you think through the problems. You can take notes, you can discuss with AI, so you will be better prepared for the exercise. And of course, learn different perspective from both the human and the AI. And then we are able to help them to contrast that, hey, this is the interaction you have with AI. This is the interaction you have with the actual human student. So what are the differences, right? So they will be able to know that how they can use AI as a mentor, but when they start to talk to a real person, these are the key things that they need to be aware of, or there may be some changes they need to make. Okay, so this is how they work. Uh, we have this kind of uh, interview processes at the beginning of the quarter. So the first step for the students to do any data analytics project is that they need to understand the context. You need to understand what's happening. You need to collect a little bit more information, right? So we created a interview exercise for them to practice that what kind of information they need to collect throughout the process. Okay, so the whole class, all the students, they receive a debriefing material saying that you are an auditor. You will be interviewing an IT director next week. Okay, so here are a couple things that you need to know because you are an outsider, right? You are not really part of the company. You have already collected a list of pieces of information about the company. Some are really specific, some are kind of vague because we just don't know the information, right? So they read through these debriefing materials. The first thing they need to do is they need to go to the platform we just saw. They need to record their initial thoughts. So after I read through the debriefing materials, I think through it. Here are the questions I want to ask. Here are the things that, yeah, it's not so clear. I have no idea what's happening. Here are several possible challenges we may be facing. But this is super fast. It's just initial thoughts after you read through the debriefing materials. Okay, we have that. We put it aside. Now, based on this initial thoughts, they can start to work with any kind of large language models to prepare the interview with the IT director. So they will put in the prompts saying that, oh, I'm an auditor. I'm going to have an interview with an IT director of a company next week. I read through these basic materials I've already collected, but how can I start the process, right? So, for example, what are the icebreaker questions I can ask? What should be the key questions? If they respond to me like this, how should I respond to them? There can be a lot of different scenario practices, right? So they can take notes, they can print it out, and they can figure out that, okay, so next week when I walk in and try to talk to the IT directors, I'm going to start with this question and this one, this one. So they may have a transcript ready saying that, okay, this is the detailed plan. So that's 1 week one. So 1 week later, they walk into the classroom and then the classroom will be split into half randomly. Some students will continue to be the auditors. Some student will be assigned as an IT director of the company. Of course, because the IT director is an insider, right? So this person should have really detailed information about what's happening in the company. These are the specific policies. They have the organization chart, who is responsible for what kind of information. They have everything. They will have about 30 minutes to read through everything, memorize the key information they need to know. Okay. And at that time, we will arrange the classrooms so the students will be sitting next to each other. Okay. So now we have actual human interview. The auditors will walk in, they will sit in front of the IT directors and they start the whole process. Everything will be recorded, right? So they will be able to see that whether they will be able to follow the transcripts they have already practiced last week with the large language model. And now, because it's a human in front of you, they have very detailed information. So they may respond different questions very differently compared to the practice they have in the week prior. Okay. So they need to go through these practices about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. And after that, they need to do a reflection. Again, they need to record it so they will be able to understand what's happening. So the question is that, okay, so what are the key differences you observe between an AI mentor and an actual human being, right? Are there key questions that you really want to ask? But when you talk to a real human, you notice that no, I probably don't need to answer those questions, or I probably don't need to ask those questions, right? Does the interaction actually change your plan, right? For example, so they will have a chance to actually reflect it. And towards the end, students will be able to see that, okay, this is your initial thoughts. I only have the debriefing materials. And they have the second piece that they did with the large language model, right? The practices, I have all the questions, everything. And they have the third piece, that's the actual recording with the real human interview they did. And towards the end, they will have a reflection. So the students will be able to see that how their thoughts or how their thinking process have changed from the initial idea to after I have a chance to practice this, to after I have a chance to talk to a real human being, and to towards the end that, oh, now I've gone through everything, that these are the things that I have learned. These are the things that I may be able to differently next time, right? So this is more like an AI-mediated dialogue. So we can use it to support our students, and they will be able to learn that, oh, this may be something that they can do in the future to help them to get ready for different things. Okay, so in summary, so AI enabled us to actually better support our students to achieve different learning objectives, right? So in my class, students will be able to benefit from exposure to different perspectives. They now can see that not just the students, sometimes the AI provides some additional different things that they can think through, right? It can help them strengthen the critical thinking skills. So they will also be able to determine that, is this feedback good, specific enough, helpful enough, constructive enough? Do they actually connect it back, everything back to the business context? And towards the end, because they will have a chance to actually explain all the reasoning orally, so they will be able to demonstrate that, oh, this is their understanding level. And they will be able to think through that, okay, so if I need to explain all these things, what's the best way to do it, right? So it can help them to actually build that skill set as well. So these are all the things that I use by using AI to support my students' learning and help them to better reach the learning objectives. If any questions, any comments, this is my video, this is my email address. Thank you so much.